Hello, gorgeous friends, and welcome to the Botanical Biohacking Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about biohacking jet lag, culture shock, and traveling light. Over the years, I've probably gone back and forth to China around 20 times. There are two ways to see China. You can walk on China with heavy luggage, a walking cane, and a Hindustani manservant shopping for Chinese things while not connecting with any of the people. And yes, people do this. I know folks who have lived in China for 10 years and all they can say is what they want to buy. They're not connected at all with the people. They're there because, they like shiny Chinese things. They like I don't know. Honest to God, I hate these folks. So to hell with them. The other way is the way I would hope that you would experience this. And this is walking in China, not on China. And this is the way I would strongly recommend, because going about it this way is being respectful and traveling flexibly. And because of this, I've been able to learn from famous TCM masters, pop up to mountaintops to learn from Buddhist and Taoist adepts, and then I've been able to be on the next flight to have tea and learn from business mentors. Walking on a country is imperialistic, and it's idiotic because there's so much more beauty, so much richness of experience that you can have by being a little bit humble, going and flowing according to the overall rhythm of that culture and society. At times I found myself in tea houses in the morning. I've met somebody for business and they brought somebody else. Immediately I'm flying to another area of China and then staying there for a couple of weeks. If I didn't have my bag packed just so, I would need to go back, repack, and miss an opportunity that maybe it wouldn't be there. Now I know what you're thinking. Well, if you were important enough for them, then they would just wait. And I would agree with that, except that if you want to only hang out with people within your immediate social class and never advance anywhere in life, then by all means let people come to you. Then the only people you'll really experience are those of exactly your same social class and value system, or those below you. If, on the other hand, you would like to see a bigger world than you have already been a part of, then it's a much better idea to be flexible and not assume that everyone else's plans can wait for you. And this has meant that I've needed to be completely flexible and have nearly military discipline about how I packed and prepared. From China, I've made trips to Europe and Africa, and over the last decade, I've used my understanding of Chinese medicine, martial arts, and Qigong to get a pretty refined system down. So please shut off all portable devices until takeoff, secure your safety belts, and enjoy the episode. The bacteria within us, our immune system, and jet lag, as well as culture shock, are not separated. But all of these exist on a continuum. Having mental baggage that leads to culture shock will stress your system out. And that stress means that it will shut down your water metabolism, it will derail your melatonin, and it will not allow your body to adjust as well. Likewise, lowered immune system function may make us less likely to want to talk to strangers or engage with the new diseases they may be carrying. Your immune system will be experiencing a completely new microbiome, and the acclimation will happen through every system in your body. Your kidneys, your liver, your immune system, everything is going to adjust. You're going to make something like 1 to 2 new liters of lymph as you begin to adjust. Having extra jobs to do because of packing or thinking of organization may seem like an unrelated topic, but I assure you it is not. You want to make sure that everything is as streamlined as possible in a very practical sense, because even packing poorly can prevent you from adjusting properly to the new experiences you want to embrace. So we're going to be covering the span of philosophy to the very specifics about how you pack a bag. So generally speaking, okay, maybe you have a bigger bag, but you want to go in as minimalistically as you can. So generally I'll have a smaller bag, like an overnight bag that I can pack with all of my necessities, and then maybe a larger bag that I'm bringing, but that bag is really more for gifts, and I'm bringing gifts as I come over from the United States to help open doors, seal new relationships, new friendships, and also to show gratitude, especially where culture and linguistic barriers may be in the way. Maybe I'm hanging out with some ethnic minority in China. They've invited me into the village, and I want to say thank you to somebody who can't speak Chinese or English. Well, cigarettes go a long way in those cases. So generally you want to be as efficiently packed as possible within an overnight bag. So a bag that you may normally think of in the US as being for 3 days maximum. If you pack it well, it will easily last you for a week. To do this though, packing cubes are a must. This keeps you organized and yet flexible. The last thing you want to do is dig around for socks and underwear, and if you're in Chinese society and really in it and not on it, people are going to be around you pretty much all the time. And the last thing you want to be known for is the person who was doing the underwear sniff test to see if something was clean enough to wear. Don't be that person. The other thing to consider is that you want to be able to know where everything in the bag is at all times. If you're tipsy or exhausted, you're going to leave things behind. You can't be constantly digging around looking for something. If people are watching you and they've just met you, it's going to make you look careless and stupid. Leaving behind belongings and making travel errors like dozing off and losing something or missing a flight is incredibly wasteful. It's going to make people view you as pretty useless. Make sure that you're carrying things in the bag that are useful for others and not just what you yourself may use. So consider having a cigarette lighter even if you don't smoke, having some extra cigarettes around. Again, even if you don't smoke, it's just nice to be able to offer that to people. I get it, in the West, cigarettes are the devil, but that's not how everybody in the world views them. And sometimes a small token of respect can open incredible doors. I was just in rural Sichuan around Omei Mountain, and this man was showing me some of the herbs that are wildcrafted there. And he offered me a cigarette, and of course I took it and I smoked it. And I was speaking to him in his dialect of kind of hillbilly Sichuanese, and he warmed right up to me, and as a result showed me where to eat these herbs that are wild herb vegetables, superfoods, I guess. We'll be talking about those at a later time. And this door just opened, and it wouldn't have been there if I wasn't able to adjust to the situation. So having a lighter, having some cigarettes, having some small gifts on hand, it is just, I can't overstate how important that will be. And you need to know where everything is in the bag, because if you're tipsy or exhausted, you're going to leave things behind. You can't be digging around, so know where everything is. For clothing, you'll want to avoid synthetics for one simple reason: they stink. And how do I put this without getting a lot of hate mail? For whatever reason, East Asians tend to smell less than Europeans, Indians, kind of everybody else. So if you're not East Asian and you're in East Asia, you're likely to develop body odor faster than everybody else in your group. So definitely avoid synthetics for this, because they are not kind with the stink. Life happens. You'll likely be wearing the same shirts or trousers before washing them. So linen's amazing. Well, actually, backing up just a little bit, using an essential oil blend, or just using some essential oils and jojoba oil, and then keeping that as kind of a antibacterial wash is pretty useful. I find that deodorants don't work all of that well. If you're using hand sanitizer to cut down on scent, Yeah, it works, but you really don't necessarily want to be wiping out that entire microbiome there. So, what I found is essential oils and jojoba are really great. Linen is amazing because it breathes and is fairly versatile for mild hot weather. And if you wash it at night, it'll be dry by morning. If you get something that's stained on it, the flax seems to be pretty forgiving to stains as long as it isn't a white colored linen item. Yes, it wrinkles, but again, if you get it wet and put it on a dryer, then you're good to go by morning. For the cooler months, silk and silk cashmere blends are amazing. I find that I can roll up 3 to 4 of them long sleeved and get them into a packing cube. With a light jacket, this looks formal enough. If the weather is warmer, then these shirts, they have shirt envelopes that will carry 1 to 2 shirts, but generally speaking, it's better to go with t-shirts or something that you don't have to fuss about too much. So wool and silk or silk cashmere are incredibly good. They're very versatile. If you can wear shoes which don't require socks, then you've defeated a good portion of your laundry before you set out. If you want to be practical and flexible rather than the belle of the ball, you're going to go much further. Men's clothing, the jackets that need to be taken care of, it's just not that practical. For women's clothing too, yeah, if you're going too feminine, it's just going to be a big, big problem. So I'd kind of go a little bit middle of the road as far as that goes. As far as saving on socks and underwear, the rule is that no matter how tired or drunk you are, when you come home, you wash your underwear and socks in the bathroom sink and hang them up. If you're in a hotel room, you'll likely welcome the extra moisture. Most hotels do their best to cut down on mold by keeping the environment extremely dry. Having wet clothing hanging can raise the moisture level enough for you to get sound sleep. Ideally, you want to be between 30 to 60% moisture. If you get below that, it can really disrupt your sleep. Again, because you need healthy water metabolism. If you find that even with hanging socks and underwear, your hotel room is still too dry, you can ask for extra towels, soak them, and hang them up. Running a shower can also moisten the room relatively quickly. Plus, it's a nice ionizer, so you can leave your Himalayan rock salt lamp back home. Ironing clothes is a nice thought while traveling, but realistically, it isn't going to happen. If you have people to meet, you're going to find yourself spontaneously going somewhere you didn't think that you would be going to. You won't have time to do any ironing. You want to keep everything you need to go uh, just in that small bag. I have an old Toomey bag, which has served me really well. It's lasted a long time. I've used messenger bags as well. They have these kind of purse backpacks that I'd recommend for women, just very versatile, and you can kind of use your main bag as the mothership, but having these overnight bags can help you to stay very flexible. If you're traveling outside the US, you're going to want to assume 2 things as a rule. One is that you will walk more, likely 3 to 4 times as much. And if you think that you'll be wheeling around a large bag, that may be true, but I wouldn't bet on it. There are cobblestones and stairs, and not every place is going to have wheelchair access. So the wheels on that large bag that you have probably aren't going to serve you that well. You can carry larger bags, but keeping an overnight bag for short trips that wouldn't look weird in a tea house. What I mean by that is, imagine you go to a cafe and you have your bag with you. If it wouldn't look out of place there, then you're good to go. You don't want to necessarily look like you're traveling or a backpacker, because that will shut many doors for you. I tend to use an expandable bag so I can meet with friends at the tea house without it seeming like I'm carrying that much. Yet it's also flexible. If I need to go on a trip, I can just expand it out a little bit. Flexibility allows for harmony, just as physical flexibility and relaxation allow us to have healthy posture. Having everything organized and being really open to these new experiences is extremely good for your social life and harmonization in Chinese society. This flexibility toward the group as a whole is very important in Chinese society, particularly in the business world. People with power and influence have very little time. And if they have an opening to see you and tea time is in 2 hours, you won't have time to pack. You may barely have time to get there, and they might have 15 minutes for you. The typical American approach of stubbornly making others come to you is a good way to not really understand China or have the ability to speak to anyone who doesn't simply want to practice their English or make money off of you. If you want to get exploited or talk to students, then by all means do it the typical way. However, if you're willing to bring gifts, have respect, and ask the right questions to the right people, there is an incredible vastness of culture which can massively enhance your life. Okay, so we've covered packing. Now, the day before you fly out, you're going to want to exercise so that you sweat. Provided that you don't have a cold, you'll also want to do some type of inversion so you get your blood circulation moving. If I can get some rings, or an inversion table, I'll hang upside down. You can also do handstands against a wall. Then you're going to want to pack an elastic exercise band if you plan on being there for a while without access to a gym or something like this. They take up no space whatsoever, and when you're free to walk about the cabin, you can do a lot of exercise in standing space. They have these rubber cords as well. These are okay, but once I was doing military presses and I was standing on these with some leather driving shoes. I was doing these military presses and the band started to roll as the plane moved. And it slipped over my heels, and this was like 100-pound weight. It's, I don't know, the black one they have at Sports Authority. So as I was doing this military press, pressing up, I felt this whip go up my back, and it hit the ceiling. So this is over 100 pounds of tensile resistance, and I just got whipped. And immediately what came to mind is that image in Roots where Kunta Kinte is getting whipped. I'm not saying it was as bad as that. That's just the image that flashed into my mind. So you don't want to be getting whipped. That's why I tend to just do curls or use the, how do I put this, not the ropey ones, but just kind of the more flexible ones. There's the regular bands. Squats seem to work just as well without those bands. So really you're looking at doing some upper body work. If you want to sleep on the plane, then this is a great way to get your circulation moving. After an hour of sitting, your body starts to crank up ghrelin, which makes you sleepy and makes you put on fat. So if you want to break that up based on the time that you're traveling, then getting up and doing some resistance training is a very good idea. One of the most punishing aspects of long flights is that you're not able to walk, and this literally kills people. The changes in air pressure and long-term sitting creates a perfect environment for people to have embolisms and strokes and heart attacks. It's also good to keep in mind that by sweating, you're going to feel how thirsty you actually are. And this is important because if you start to get dehydrated, it'll shift your gut microbiota balance, and it's going to make jet lag that much worse. Also, if you leave it to most flight attendants to water you, you will dry out. Staying hydrated on planes is its own strategy. And this is important because water balance and gut microbiota are two of your main obstacles. If you can keep these in check, you're going to adjust right away. You're going to hit the ground running and life is going to be awesome. If not, then you're likely going to get worn down by your new microbes in the environment, and you're going to take around 10 days to fully adjust. That's a tremendous amount of time and energy to waste, so it's good to calculate what you're functioning at to be at your best. So you're going to want to pack vacuum seal tea thermos, especially if you're going to China. Now, why the thermos? You can't bring water on the flight. That's true. However, you can fill it with hot water once you're on there. And having your own supply of water is great. Then you don't have to wait for somebody to give you a very tiny cup, which probably isn't going to cut it. Also, this allows you to put your own herbs in there to help you adjust. The day before you fly out, you're going to want to drink a lot of Botanical Biohacking's wind tea, which is a combination of xiao chai hu and sanren tang. Reason for this is it's really good for flushing out lymph. It's strongly antiviral. You're going to be breathing the same air as a lot of other people, and they're going to have viruses, and those viruses are going to try to kill you. This is a huge part of jet lag, and it's also great because chai hu will further help with melatonin regulation and keeping your stress hormones low. So this formula is absolutely outstanding generally in life, but for pre-flight, it is just amazing. Any plant or animal that's moved from one place to another will respond with stress, so this helps you to keep chilled out and calm as you travel. You're also going to want to start eating at the time that is right at your destination a day before. As well, it will serve you incredibly well to take a nap the day before, even if it's just for an hour, at the time that you will be sleeping in. Just kind of opening that up just a little bit is absolutely essential so that you can hit the ground running. Between Asia and North America, dinner and breakfast seem to align while lunch does not. So if you're going to skip a meal, I would suggest skipping lunch the day before. I tend to skip the lunch, and then it's much easier to do it the next day and then just sleep through that time. Sleeping on planes can be tricky. If 10 days of productive time are worth the cost, then you'll want to take business class so you can actually lie down and sleep deeply. This is important for your hemodynamics and getting blood to your internal organs. Skillful use of airline points can make this free for you if you fly, once or twice a year. Okay, great. Well, what if that still is off the table? For most of my life, it has been. One trick I've used for better flying is cash. If there is an open seat somewhere and you're sitting right next to somebody who is all elbows and belly fat, you can ask your neighbor to move in exchange for $100. I know it seems a little extreme, but usually they won't move otherwise. And having that extra space will allow you to kind of lie down enough for you to get a few hours of sleep. If you find yourself having trouble getting to sleep, exhale as though you were sighing and start to daydream. Before long, you'll find yourself either asleep or close enough. Now comes the challenge of hydration. The air on the plane will be dry. If you're flying Cathay Pacific or an Asian airline, they'll actually serve you. They're going to show you kindness and civility and culture. American airline companies, by contrast, are filled with Americans who are too proud to serve and are very good at demonstrating with their body language that they've never cared about anybody but themselves. My experience is that they artlessly waddle through the aisles, bumping everyone possible, and gossip loudly and ignore whatever requests that you have. Yes, it's terrible, but when among savages, my suggestion is that you go savage and look at where they store the larger water bottles and snatch one. Yeah, go ahead and be shameless, because if they're not serving you, if they're being weird, if whatever, you got to drink. If they try to stop you, just say you have diabetes or cancer or something. As soon as possible, get your mouth right on that bottle top. They're going to let you keep it. Anyway, just tell them you have a medical condition. Dehydration will harm you, and American airline companies are largely only concerned that you don't use the bathroom and annoy them while they gossip about the other flight attendants. So if you're allowed to buy a large bottle of water before you board, then do that. Water on airplanes is gold. It's worth the $20 or whatever highway robbery they charge. But really, it is highway robbery. So if you can just snatch one and slobber all over it, do so. Don't fall for the juice traps. Keep your beverages either warm tea or water. You're not going to have the metabolism for intense sugars and cold drinks. Liquor seems like a great idea, but I promise you it is not. If you are on an Asian airline, then they will have proper hot water dispenser. Add some Shaosan tea to the bottle and fill it with water. This will help you gently adjust digestion, and restore melatonin balance. It's incredible for jet lag. While I'm on the plane, I also eat lots of MicroGuard Plus. Melatonin capsules aren't really worth a damn. Keep it simple. Proper gut health will regulate melatonin anyway. Keeping the right herbs on hand, really before and after, are great. Blue blocker glasses, I've used a few times, but I don't bother anymore. It's better to just listen to audiobooks. Absolutely forget the movies. They're mostly trash anyway. And use a sleep mask and a blanket to keep blue light off of you when you want to be adjusting to what will be your new nighttime. Blue light, even if it's on skin, will affect your circadian rhythms. So cover up with a blanket and have a sleep mask, and that will take care of a lot of it. Then there's a matter of once you hit your destination. When I hit China, usually I'm going to Chengdu, and usually within the first few days, if not the first few hours of landing, it is banquets, karaoke, and other merriment. And there is no space for the cultish, personalized Western diets that makes everybody here so precious and so Princess and the Pea special. Yes, I get it. You've got gluten-free, keto, ancient grains. Thankfully, all of that bullshit isn't necessary when a civilization has figured out that vegetables and spices exist. A lot of those finicky diets we have are because we're all going through life with a diet that is so nasty that it's eating holes in your colon. And as shit moves by, it's getting right into your bloodstream. That's another way of saying leaky gut, but I think it's important to just say it how it is. In the West, our diet is so messed up that we are literally full of shit. It's getting into our blood. Yeah. So, yes, all of these crazy diets do work, but when societies know how to eat vegetables and spices, then the gut comes into harmony and you don't need any of that stuff anyway. You can also relax on the peanut allergies and nightshades. I've seen really picky white people go to China and insist on the peanut allergies and the nightshades, and they try to translate that to the poor farmer girl who's serving them. And she has no idea what they're talking about. Nightshades, okay, translated into Chinese. Nobody knows what the hell that means. Most doctors in China don't know what that means. And there's a reason. The way foods are prepared traditionally removes their toxicity. And really, the toxicity only hits when you have a background of gut dysbiosis and intestinal lesions. If you eat like local people, then you'll be fine. Also, nuts, when they're roasted, have the toxicity. When they're boiled, as they are in China, it's not a big deal. They don't become toxic. If you insist on being vegan and no nightshades, you can enjoy walking on Chinese soil, but you aren't in China. And this is because food is the language of love in China. Food is too central culturally. Not drinking with people is also extremely cold and a sign of disrespect in many circles. And while it's not outright rude as a foreigner, it will shut down most roads before they had the possibility of opening. When you arrive, if you're arriving from the United States, you're going to be waking up early, maybe around 5 to 6 a.m. So start with some Qigong, martial arts, and tea. Clear your mind and just chill, because you're about to have a lot of new experiences ahead. Having a perfect physique and diet requires controlling your world. If your world can be controlled, then it's a sad little cage, and I pity anyone limited to the world which exists within their grasp. It is a prison with bricks of fear and mortar of self-centeredness, and it clashes with the needs of others. It is exactly why most people in the West report feeling lonely, and why so much of the Anglosphere is on depression medications. Getting every wish the genie grants can lead to more misery than joy. Living in your own bubble without being able to flow with the group is celebrated in the West, but really it's an infantile expression of the ego. It ironically locks everyone in cages of social isolation, which prevents true healing from taking place. So years of talk therapy will never be enough to replace the authentic cultivation of community. These cages of individualism blind us to beauty which could never imagine and deafen us to rhythms which we've never heard. And yeah, a lot of this is how we express our ego and our diets, which must be maintained. Look, in Chinese, they have an expression. It's basically enter the village, follow the customs. It's when in Rome. There's a degree of letting go and flowing with the group that is really profound when you embrace it fully. And this is because freedom is found in flexibility. It's entering into the flow of Chinese society, from the wealthy to the poor. Entering into this flow is itself a spiritual experience. It is setting aside our ethnocentrism and individualism so that we can begin to consider the larger flow of society. Because if we can't even do this with people, how can we talk about harmonizing with the larger flow of the universe or the planet or nature, or talk about flowing with the Tao, and then we get to China and what? Want everything to be done our way? Come on, that's bullshit. We all know that. The truth is that the road can sometimes be bumpy if you walk with stiff legs. So we use plant-based medicines and foods to help us adjust. Qigong and meditation can help us as well, but ultimately it's a shift in our mindset which removes all resistance and allows us to see past the narrow confines of ourselves. It's said that harmony and cooperation are the basis of Chinese culture. And I would say that this is true of culture itself in the broader sense. Embrace discomfort until you adjust and are completely comfortable with what used to be uncomfortable. This is the essence of culture, self-cultivation, and philosophy. Plus, it makes you a well-adjusted primate, and I promise you it will open doors into worlds beyond your imagination or expectation. Thank you so much for listening to the Botanical Biohacking Podcast. I am your delectable host, Dr. Andrew Miles.